If you really knew me, you'd understand that the things I do aren't always for attention or approval. Sometimes they're just a way for me to express things I can't say out loud. If you truly understood me, you'd know that I often hold back, not because I don't care, but because I don't want to overwhelm others with the weight of my feelings. If you really knew me, you'd see that every choice I make is a result of both my inner strength and my vulnerability. I am a work in progress, and so are my decisions. If you knew me, you'd understand that my mind never truly rests. I'm constantly thinking, feeling, and analyzing, and it shapes how I respond to the world around me. If you truly knew me, you'd see that the things I do aren't always about the outcome, but about finding a way to express the emotions that can't be expressed in words. If you really knew me, you'd understand that sometimes I act out of desperation for change. It's not about being reckless. It's about hoping that something, anything, will help me feel differently. If you knew me, you'd understand that the way I respond to challenges is not always logical. Sometimes it's a reflection of the emotional weight I'm carrying, and it's not easy to share that with others. If you really understood me, you'd know that my current feelings are shaped by a deep longing for peace. I'm trying to find balance, but it's a journey, and it doesn't always happen overnight. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I don't always know how to ask for help. I'd rather struggle silently than burden others, even though I know it's not the healthiest choice. If you truly understood me, you'd know that my choices often come from a place of fear, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of disappointing others. If you really knew me, you'd understand that my feelings are a constant whirlwind, but I try to maintain control. It's not easy, and sometimes I don't succeed, but I'm always trying to make sense of it all. If you knew me, you'd understand that the decisions I make are often influenced by the way I've been treated in the past. I carry that baggage with me, and it impacts how I respond in the present. If you really knew me, you'd see that I'm more than just my actions. There's so much more happening behind the scenes that you might never understand unless you take the time to look deeper. If you truly knew me, you'd know that I'm constantly evolving. The person I am today may not be the same as the person I was yesterday, and tomorrow might bring even more change. If you really knew me, you'd understand that every choice I make is a reflection of my current emotional state. Sometimes I'm more fragile than I appear, and I just need time to heal. If you understood me, you'd know that my emotions often feel like a storm inside me. It's difficult to predict when the storm will pass, but I'm always hoping for calmer days. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I make decisions based on how much I value the people in my life. Even when I seem distant, I'm still thinking of you. If you truly knew me, you'd know that my actions sometimes come from a place of self-doubt. I question myself constantly, but that doesn't mean I'm not trying to grow. If you really knew me, you'd see that I am constantly working on myself. It's not always easy, and I make mistakes along the way, but I'm always striving to be better. If you knew me, you'd understand that I don't always have the right words to say. Sometimes, silence is the only thing that can truly express how I feel. If you truly knew me, you'd understand that my decisions are never made in haste. I've thought about every possibility, and sometimes the best choice is the one that scares me the most. If you really knew me, you'd see that I often overthink things, but it's only because I care deeply about the consequences of my actions. If you knew my story, you'd understand that I don't always feel strong, even though I try to be. Some days, I'm just trying to survive, and that's enough. If you really knew me, you'd understand that every choice I make is a reflection of my desire to find peace within myself. Sometimes it takes time to figure out how to get there. If you truly understood me, you'd know that my current state of mind is a result of years of trying to balance my inner world with the outer one. It's a constant journey, and I'm still finding my way. If you really knew me, you'd understand that my feelings are complex, and they can't always be reduced to a simple explanation. There's so much more going on beneath the surface. If you knew me, you'd understand that my actions are not always a reflection of my true feelings. Sometimes they are just a way to cope with the overwhelming emotions inside me. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I sometimes make mistakes, but they don't define who I am. I am constantly learning, growing, and striving to do better. If you truly knew me, you'd see that every decision I've made comes from a place of deep reflection, even though it may not always seem that way on the surface. My actions are shaped by experiences that you can't fully understand unless you've walked in my shoes. If you really knew me, you'd understand that my silence often speaks louder than words. There are times when I don't have the energy to explain, but it doesn't mean I'm not processing or feeling deeply inside. If you knew my heart, you'd realize how much love and care I pour into everything I do. Every choice, every step I take is fueled by a desire to protect those I care about, even if it's not always obvious. If you really understood me, you'd know that sometimes I act out of fear, not because I want to hurt others, but because I'm trying to protect myself from more pain. If you knew the full story behind my choices, you'd see that nothing I do is ever without thought. Each action carries a weight of emotions, fears, and hopes, and it's not easy to explain all at once. If you really knew me, you'd see that I struggle with my own insecurities. The choices I make are sometimes a result of trying to figure out who I really am, even if it appears like I have everything together. If you knew my mind, you'd understand the conflict I feel within myself. It's like a tug of war between what I feel is right and what I feel is necessary, and it's not always easy to find balance. If you really knew me, you'd understand that sometimes I distance myself because I'm afraid of burdening others with my own turmoil. It's not about you, it's about protecting you from my inner storms. If you truly understood, you'd know that my actions are not always a reflection of how I feel in the moment. They are often a response to past pain that I haven't fully healed from yet. If you really knew me, you'd see that I make decisions based on how much I care, even if it comes across the wrong way. Love and care often manifest in ways that others might not immediately recognize. If you understood me, you'd know that sometimes I make decisions based on survival rather than what's best in the long term. In those moments, it's about protecting myself from what I fear most. If you truly knew me, you'd understand that I don't always express my feelings the way I should. It's not that I don't feel deeply, it's that sometimes words aren't enough to capture what's in my heart. If you really knew me, you'd see that my decisions come from a place of deep thinking, not impulsiveness. Every choice is weighed with the consequences, and sometimes it's hard to explain why certain paths feel right. If you understood me, you'd know that I often feel torn between my desires and my responsibilities. It's a constant battle between following my heart and staying true to my commitments. If you really knew me, you'd see that my current thoughts and feelings are shaped by a lifetime of experiences. Every choice I make is a reflection of everything I've been through, even if it's hard for others to see. If you truly understood, you'd know that the decisions I make aren't always easy ones. They often come from a place of trying to find peace in a world that feels like it's constantly shifting beneath my feet. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I'm not afraid of vulnerability. I'm afraid of being misunderstood, of having my deepest feelings brushed aside as if they don't matter. If you knew me, you'd understand that sometimes my actions are driven by a need to prove something to myself, not others. It's a personal journey of growth and discovery, and it's not always about what others think. If you really knew me, you'd see that I wear my heart on my sleeve, even though I sometimes wish I could hide it. My emotions are real, and they drive everything I do, whether I show them or not. If you truly understood me, you'd see that my actions often reflect the inner battles I face. The constant push and pull between fear and hope, doubt and faith. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I sometimes do things just to feel like I'm in control, even though I know deep down that control is an illusion. It's about finding comfort in chaos. If you knew my heart, you'd see that I give more than I take. My decisions are rooted in trying to lift others up, even if I struggle to ask for the same in return. If you really knew me, you'd understand that I'm constantly searching for meaning in everything I do. Every action, every choice is an attempt to make sense of this world that can sometimes feel so confusing. If you truly knew me, you'd understand that I don't always know what's best. I'm figuring it out as I go, and sometimes the wrong decisions teach me more than the right ones ever could. If you really understood me, you'd know that my actions are a reflection of the deep feelings I have, even if they come out in ways that are hard to explain.